Welcome to the Weigh In Podcast, your prescription for a healthier life, where wellness is more than just a number on a scale. We'll dive deep into not just weight loss, but the medical, emotional, and lifestyle aspects of well-being.
In each episode, we'll weigh in on hot topics ranging from diet myths and exercise trends to mental health and chronic disease management, providing you with the evidence-based advice to guide your health decisions. Remember, it's not just about the weight on the scale, but about creating a healthier, more balanced you. Hey, Katie, how's it going?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So I know we've talked about here and there, your own personal journey on weight loss. And so this is the episode. This is the off the cuff where you're going to find out everything that Katie did to lose those 70 pounds while being a mother.
Yes. Well, being a mom and like at the height of COVID-19 and being in grad school.
Oh, wow.
It was a really crazy time.
Yeah.
I guess I'll start with a little bit of like backstory. I think everybody listening knows that I have two boys, that the second pregnancy did me in. I gained a bunch of weight, couldn't get it off. And I got to a point where I was like, I need help. So I actually sought out medical weight loss. I went to a medical weight loss provider. And my very first visit was very emotional for me. I thought I already was like super anxious and like nervous about it. And then I went in and the first thing she asked me was, walk me through what you ate yesterday, which anybody who's a patient who listens to me knows that that's one of the biggest questions I ask in the first consultation. I told her what I ate, and it was so upsetting to have to say it out loud. And it was also it caused me to have so much insight into what my issues were that I was so grateful that I sought out the help. And what came to light when I was telling her what I was eating is just how bad my binge eating was. I told her, okay, well, I ate this and I ate that in the daytime. And then I came home and I ate, I think at the time I had eaten almost an entire bag of Oreo cookies. I had eaten about 7 of my kids' fruit snacks. I had eaten maybe 4 or so Eggo waffles, all in one sitting while mindlessly watching TV post shift to just relax after a shift. And at the time when you're doing it, I don't think you even realize just how much you're eating. It's almost mindless at the time, until you have to say it out loud or until somebody calls you out, right? Until somebody, like my kid the next day is like, where did all the cookies go? And I'm like, I don't know. So until somebody calls you out or you have to say it, you don't ever realize how severe it was. And I don't think I had ever realized how severe it was until I had to tell somebody just how much, just what I had eaten. And I'm not a big crier, but in her office, I just burst into tears. I was like, I am so embarrassed. There was this extra layer of embarrassment because I'm a healthcare provider too. So whenever you're talking to another healthcare provider, even though you're in that patient role, you feel like you're talking to a colleague. So it just felt even more cringeworthy for me. And she, of course, was lovely and extremely professional. But was big on holding me accountable and started to give me medication options at the time. So I'm making this sound like it was so long ago, but it was, years plus ago. At the time, I don't think that Ozempic, that semaglutide was even FDA approved for weight loss at the time. So Ozempic was kind of just off-label use for weight loss, which a lot of us were prescribing at that time anyway. What she initially suggested was that I do bupropion and naltrexone. Some of you might know this drug as the brand name Contrave. Serena, do you prescribe this to your patients very often?
Yes, I do it as maintenance. So after they've been on semaglutide or tirzepatide and they've met their goal weight, or they like where they're at, then I suggest we can do Contrave just to maintain your weight loss and that you don't gain it back, because it helps with the cravings and helps you, kind of have that medication still, but you're not doing the injections. And that's for people that don't want to do a maintenance of semaglutide, because I know it could be costly. And so it's just a cheaper option. But yes, I do in my practice do that.
It's a great drug. It used to be kind of like the rock star, and then it seems like the GLP-1 agonist kind of showed it up. But there was a time when people wanted it, where it was considered a very expensive, kind of tricky judged drug to get. And the thing is so what it is it's actually 2 drugs that are not weight loss drugs at all that are combined to be this FDA approved weight loss drug. Bupropion is what we think of as like an antidepressant. It affects like dopamine and norepinephrine levels in your brain, and it's oftentimes used for like things like smoking cessation, just because it's good with cravings in general. So that's what bupropion is. The brand name for that is Wellbutrin. And then naltrexone, which is like an opioid antagonist, which is oftentimes used for addictions such as like opioid use disorder. And so for weight loss, it works in like on the brain's like reward pathways. So it affects sort of the pleasure that's induced whenever you eat. So when combined, these two drugs work to be a really powerful way to combat cravings. And I happen to think it's particularly good with people that struggle with binge eating disorder. So that's what she started me on. A common way that people prescribe it is they prescribe it as two separate drugs. I know now I do, just because the brand name can be very pricey sometimes. So she prescribed it as two separate drugs. And it was very effective for helping with a lot of the binge eating that I was using, that I was doing at the time. Although sometimes when I had severe amounts of binge eating, I would get terrible like nausea, vomiting, which can be sort of a side effect or adverse effect of this drug. But I did pretty well on it, in addition with diet and exercise. Anybody that knows me knows I'm like Peloton obsessed. Y'all, I had like a 400 something day streak. So I like did not miss a day. I was psycho. Everybody that was friends with me probably felt like they either needed to buy a Peloton or stop being my friend, because it was all I talked about. And some of them are still Peloton addicts. My bestie Jewel, who you met, she like surpasses me in the amount of rides that she's done now. She's like a Peloton rock star. So I started to do a lot of Pelotoning. I did at the time sort of like document all of my food. So I kept like a food diary. I think I used like the Lose It app, and I fully immersed myself in developing all of these habits, because this felt like do or die. I had already had that crazy year where I had a uterine prolapse or my labs were looking crazy. I was like, I'm getting this weight off. I'm getting me back. So I started to do the drugs. I lost a decent amount of weight. However, the naltrexone started to become a little bit troublesome. Even though it was helping with the binge eating was becoming less and less of an issue when I was sort of just developing really good habits. But it would make me feel tired, and it would give me significant nausea, which, by the way, this is not universally so. I have patients who are on naltrexone, love it, never get nauseous. But for me, I was getting super nauseous and tired. And at the time I was in grad school, and I kind of needed to be like alert and functional in the evenings to get work done. So it started to become troublesome. So that's when we started talking about doing Ozempic, which at the time, because I had been in that obese category, and then I had some comorbidities already with the high cholesterol, and I think I had an elevated A1C, I was more than eligible to actually get it covered at that time. And so I started on Ozempic. I started off on the low dose that we put all of our patients on, that 0.25 milligrams, which worked well for me. I'm like one of that small percentage of people who gets that low dose and they're like, this is it. So it worked well. I definitely had some anhedonia even on that low dose, where I just like was not interested in food. And yeah, just totally disinterested in food, which was crazy for me.
Was it just food or everything else?
I don't want to say it was everything, but it was a lot of things. I felt sort of a genuine disinterest in a lot of things. Some of it, I think, is my general level of focus at that time was like very like serious and focused. But I definitely probably wasn't sort of the like bubbly, fun-hearted, like fun, like, you know, the personality that I am, I felt like was a little bit more muted when I first started on the drug. But I'm super forgetful, so that once a week life was perfect for me. I loved it. So I loved that part, and I loved how I figured out early on that I could control the nausea if I just didn't eat too much, which sounds like super simple, but was huge for me. So I was like, wait a minute, like this isn't like, oh my gosh, I'm taking naltrexone and I'm nauseous. It's like, wait a minute, like if I just eat carefully and I'm careful about what I eat, and I don't like gorge myself, I won't have to vomit, and I can control this. And that to me was extremely freeing. And it's probably the thing that my patients love the most about it, is like you eventually sort of feel like you kind of get control over your life, right? And just not needing to take a pill to know that you're going to have like a safe eating evening was like amazing, right? I took the injection once a week, and then for the rest of the week, I like was not binging. I wasn't tempted. I wasn't obsessing over the food. A lot of that food noise quieted for me. And for me, it was literally like life-changing. right? Because the act of taking medication every day, although I totally support that, and for many people it's worth it. And for me, by the way, just to be clear, I lost a ton of weight on bupropion and naltrexone. So I did really, really well on it. I just hadn't gotten to my goal weight yet. But what I will say is that the whole act of like not needing to take a pill every day just suddenly made me feel like more accountable for my eating. And it really, really helped. So I started to do the low dose. And like anybody else, and just like my patients, I had my on days, I had my off days, and I would go to my follow-up visit. And I told her, like, yeah, like, you know, it's working, but I still have these moments where I'm kind of hungry. So what would you say in this situation? You'd say, let's up your dose. You're on the lowest possible dose. Let's put you on 0.5 milligrams, which is exactly what she did. Went on 0.5 milligrams, and it was not a good fit for me. I was nauseous. So I'm like I'm part of that like freaky group of people who like really was the lowest dose. I was team low dose. So I did 20 units. And for me, I was like actively vomiting on 20 units.
Oh, wow.
Which I actually, outside of me, have never met somebody who has that be the case. What I will say is I have had clients who get super nauseous on that low dose, but like after they're on it for a while, it subsides and they're able to do well. Some of them even need further dose titration after that. But
right, that's why we start them off so low.
Exactly. You start them off low. Exactly. And then you put them on 0.5, and then they might even be nauseous or vomiting then, but then they kind of stay at the 0.5. You see how they do. And then if they might even need to increase thereafter. What happened to me is I got to that 0.5. I felt the vomits like once or twice, and your girl was like, we're not doing this. I'm going to drop back down to 10 units, especially because of the environment at the time. I was very, very busy. Not like, and we're all busy, so let me not minimize that, but not like, oh, like I'm going to this office job, I'm at the computer, I'm talking to clients. I was like in like an emergency department, dealing with super sick people, dealing with life or death circumstances. I literally could not be vomiting at work or otherwise. So I was like, you know what, I can't do this. Let me just drop down to the low dose. I stayed at the low dose for a very, very long time. I was like a 10 units girl. So that was I ended up being a very, very low dose. At one point, she did bump me again. And I didn't have nearly as much vomiting as before. So I just had like mild nausea. But by then, remember, and this is important, I think, to note, I was on semaglutide for that second half of my weight loss journey. So some of the most challenging hurdles that you have to overcome when you're losing weight, like developing new habits to lose weight, I had already overcome those, right? We always think of like those last 20, 30 pounds as being the most difficult, because it is in many ways, because it's harder for your body to lose that weight. But mentally, I think those first couple of months are really, really hard. Why do you think so many people lose weight in January and then forget about it? And by the time spring comes, they're like, oh my God, I'm not summer body ready. It's because we fall off. It takes about 66 days to form a habit. And if you are doing this type of program and you fall off during the 66 days, it's really hard to like get back on the bandwagon. So for me, that's a lot of like why that second leg, I think, was successful with a low dose of semaglutide, is because I had already kind of done my 66 days. Like I had already done the habit forming work when I was on the bupropion and naltrexone.
And I also think it depends on what you were eating at that time. And so for some people that start, I'm going to do everything brand new, they do something that they don't like, or it's too restrictive. You have to have a good balance. So can you kind of go into like what you were eating, like that first half?
Yeah, lots and lots of literally exactly what I teach. High protein diet. So those lean proteins, chicken breast, turkey, fish, shrimp, I was heavy on. What I will say is I'm big on not eating nasty food. So I still ate well. Don't get it twisted. The foods that I ate were flavorful. They were delicious. They were enjoyable. They were foods that my whole family would eat. And then I tried my hardest to get vegetables, green leafy vegetables, pretty much the biggest thing that I did, just because it's also like the easiest to prepare, in my opinion. You're just like throwing some greens next to whatever you're eating. So I did a lot of that. And then for me, and this is like shift workers that are listening to this, definitely listen up. For me, one of the biggest things that I did that helped be successful was preparing my snacks in advance. If you do nothing else, prepare your snacks in advance. It is key. Because at work, we are so tempted to eat like crap. Not just because there's the usual people with like Betty Sue bringing in cookies that she made at home, but we're also just stressed out and we're busy. So we have every reason to eat bad. So if you want to be successful with your weight loss, you have to prepare in advance. And if you're somebody who knows that you're not going to sit down to eat a meal for lunch, you need to make sure that you have enough healthy snacks. So I had a rule. I only eat what's in my bag. I had a bag that was like full of snacks. Some of them were not even the clean snacks that I recommended you guys. They were what I consider like survival snacks, right? So just high protein things that I just like had in my house that I would throw in there. And I would have them all with me. And that I would tell myself, okay, Kate, you can only eat what's in your lunch bag. I usually had a meal prepared as well, which at the time, as we get a little further into the weight loss, started to take some time just because as we got towards COVID, there were times where I like couldn't even like heat up a meal, right? There were times when I was like doing COVID swabs outside and your girl couldn't like go heat up lunch, you know? So I would have to like get creative with like putting food in a thermos. There are definitely certain staple foods that I made. Some of them I share with my clients, and some of the recipes I've actually like written up to start giving some of my clients that want to try them because I thought they're really easy to make. But things like turkey chili with like broccoli on the side, that's like a really great one that you can do. Things like chicken fajitas with like a low carb wrap. These are things that I would just make.
Sounds good.
And stick. Yeah, they were really delicious. They were really healthy. Like I always tried to make it flavorful and fun to eat.
Yeah,
it's
so not just your typical salad or something.
Oh my God,
boring.
No, I wouldn't stick to it. I would still
Right.
be 70 pounds heavier. If I had to eat nasty food, I would opt to just be a big girl because I think nasty food is the worst. It takes the fun and the joy out of it. You know, food is fun to eat. And also it's a social thing, right? Like I want to be able to eat food with my friends and my family and enjoy it. So I made a lot of different sort of meals and lunches. I had a lot of fun with it. I would look up new recipes. Me and my kids would try to find ways to make like different like protein balls that would actually like taste good, that were still healthy every week. And I would try to really prep my meals in advance without having it take over my life. Things like making turkey chili, if you're not a cook, is very easy, I think, just because like if you go to like the seasoning aisle in your grocery store, like McCormick has like a whole chili packet that's like $1.89 of like seasoning that you can just like put in it. I mean, I recommend that you season it better than that, but like if you're not somebody that cooks, just do that. Like literally follow the directions. It's like 2 cans of diced tomatoes, some red beans, some turkey chili. It gets very, very easy to do. So I would do things like that. I would make fajitas. I had any number of even sort of like ethnic dishes, especially because my background's Caribbean. Your girl was still eating jerk chicken. So I was still eating really good food. And then I would make a ton of food at once and then freeze it and put it and save it as a prepped meal. And there is, in my opinion, a little bit of like an art or a skill to doing this because it does require a little bit of advanced preparation. You need to have containers, right? And I'm going to preface this by saying my option is not the most environmentally friendly. So for those of you that are more environmentally conscious, I apologize. But I would use like plastic containers from Amazon, your classic like restaurant containers that you can have. I would always have a Sharpie because when you're putting meals in the freezer, you're not going to be able to see what the heck is in them once they're frozen. Yeah. So always date what the meal is and write what the contents are in. And I would stick them in the freezer that way. If you have kids like gremlins like I do, label what's for them and what's not. Because there's nothing more annoying than getting your stuff together and then you go to work and all your food is gone because your adolescent son ate it all as like an after school snack. So label stuff. I would label stuff Elijah, mommy only, like these types of things on different things. And my kids would have prepared meals too. And it actually is still part of like what we still do in our house. We don't do it often because I've gotten better at it. So I don't need to do it like every week. It's probably like every few weeks. But even like yesterday, Max was like, Mommy, we need to prepare some meals for the week. Are we going to do meal prep on Sunday? And I was like, yeah, we are. Although we're not going hardcore because Thanksgiving's coming up. So we don't need to go crazy with it. But it's kind of part of like what they know as being a tool for eating healthy. Because I had a super busy week this week. I was like teaching classes and stuff. So they ate a daddy prepared meal and they had a pizza night during the week, which is different for us. Usually those things are more like weekend things. So my kids are very health conscious and Max is like, what's good? Are you going to get together? We're all out of meals in the freezer and we know you're busy this week. Let's cook this weekend. So definitely.
Well, see, I love that because when I hear about when people have kids, they're like, oh, I have to eat what the kids eat or something. But I like that they're so involved in your process and that they are looking forward to it. They're like, oh, what are you making for us, Mom? You know, so I don't think I mean, I can't speak for myself, but, you know, I don't think it doesn't have to be a difficult process. I think if you ingrain it in them and then they're used to it, like it won't be difficult. But
it won't. And don't forget, you're the parent. What do you mean you got to eat what they eat? Them kids, they eat what you give them.
Exactly.
They eat what they are given. And I'm
Yep.
saying that with love because I used to think that too. I'd be like, oh, like, I don't know what I'm going to do about these fruit snacks in the house. They tempt me, but Max does not need fruit snacks. He does not need, there's nothing that he needs at all. And so, it's important, I think, to let your kids eat healthy too. And they will get like on the bandwagon. Like, don't get it twisted. My kids still like crappy food as well, but they definitely love and appreciate healthy food. Max will definitely be like, Mommy, I'm all out of berries. Can we go to Produce Junction and get more berries? So like, he definitely will do that because they know that the health piece is important. So I think you just have to like have balance, but definitely remember you're the boss. You're the adult. You birthed them or took them in. They eat what they're given.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, which I think as parents, it's sometimes hard for us to do, but they're going to eat what they're given at the end of the day, and they will figure it out, and they will follow your modeled behavior. So if you want to eat healthy and have a healthy lifestyle, you need to make sure that you model that behavior because your kids are going to want the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They really are.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you had good habits like forming at the beginning, and so now you're on semaglutide. Did you stick to the 0.25 the whole time? Did you ever move back up to 0.5 afterwards?
I did move back up to 0.5 at one point, probably for like a matter of months. It was like some very, very stressful period of time. And I did not vomit during that time. And then I went back down. And then I did, one thing that I want to warn people of is one issue that I did start to have is I did start to notice that I would like forget to take my doses. And then I would maybe have 2 weeks where I didn't take a dose and then dose with that 0.5, and I would get very, very nauseous and start vomiting. So that's not everybody. That doesn't happen to everybody, but be careful. If you continuously skip doses, it actually can increase your risk for those gastroparesis-like symptoms, that like spasming of the bowel that you can get. So you do have to be careful about going from a low dose to a high dose. Again, I in general have a very sensitive stomach, so I think the average person would more so see this if they like are on like an 80 unit dose and don't take their meds for 3 weeks and then decide to randomly take another 80 unit dose, you're going to feel sick probably.
Yeah, and that's a good point to talk to your provider. Like if you've missed so much at that point, just ask them, what do you think I should do? Because I don't want to experience any bad side effects. And they can advise you, okay, maybe go lower on it or something, or maybe you have to start over depending on how long it's been. So that's just a good time to reach out to your provider for that.
1,000,000%. And know that your provider is doing it with your best interest in mind. I know some of my patients are like, Katie, no, I don't want to start from the beginning. And I'm like, okay, I always tell them you're a grown up, so you don't have to listen to me. But just know that if you feel like crap on semaglutide, you're probably going to feel crappy all week long. It's a medication that you take once a week. So just proceed with caution. By the way, some of y'all have stomachs of steel. Some of y'all take the medication can take 100 units out of the blue and feel fine. But to me, it's like not worth the risk. And having worked in emergency medicine, I have seen it all. And the level of sick that you can feel, like it's not worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, people have had to make trips to the ER or the urgent care because they took a high dose and then just had really bad stomach upset, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea possibly. It's just not worth it. So.
Yeah, and their labs look funky. Their liver function tests are sometimes look crazy. If they're from pancreatitis, their lipase levels will look crazy. It's like not worth it.
No, absolutely not.
It's not worth it at all.
Absolutely not. So what are you currently doing at the moment? Are you still taking semaglutide?
No, but I stayed on it for a year after I got to my goal weight. So I stayed on it for a solid year. And I did that because it was important to me that first of all, that feeling, for those of you that are listening that have been on the drug, know if you struggle with your weight, that feeling of like not needing to like worry about it anymore is amazing. I was like addicted to that feeling. So for that reason, I stayed on it for a year after, but then eventually I came off of the drug. And for me, that was, it was almost a difficult decision not to do it, but I was able to keep the weight off. And by the way, I have no shame. If I ever did feel like I fell off the bandwagon, I would totally jump back on it again. I've been able to maintain a healthy weight and a healthy lifestyle, not always perfectly or flawlessly. I want to say that, especially with being a business owner. Oh my gosh, it was like the busiest time ever. Truthfully, being a business owner was actually more busy and possibly more stressful than being an ER nurse during COVID-19. It was a lot. It was a lot of sleepless nights. Cause like when you work in an ER, like your shift ends eventually and you're done.
Right.
But as you know, Zarina, with business ownership, it doesn't end, and there's no one to tell you like you got to clock out, you know?
Yeah.
So like your husband and kids can tell you, but at the end of the day, if you're crazy and want to wake up in the middle of the night or wake up at 4 a.m. to finish getting work done, those beginning stages of business can be very, very busy and stressful. So learning to recreate balance while I did that was really important. But if you are doing diet and weight loss and you really form those habits, not just through those 66 days, but like well beyond that, if you really, really work on like getting those habits, then you'll find that you're able to kind of withstand a lot of adversity and kind of jump back on the bandwagon, even if your new normal is a little bit different. So the truth of the matter is, working out for 7 days a week was not a sustainable thing. I love working out and I wish that I could work out 7 days a week, but my life just doesn't allow for it. And I do need to like sleep and rest. So I don't work out 7 days a week. I do about 4 to 5 days a week of working out. And then I usually do at least 1 or 2 days a week of being physically active with my kids, whatever that looks like. Whether that's like we go on a hike together, whether we go on a walk together, whether I let the teenager pick out the workout, which he's a jumper. He's like this like track star jumper. So y'all going on a run with him is like hell. He's a teenager. So I'm like all excited that he wants to talk to me. So I'm like, yeah, let's go on a run. It's awful. It's awful because, like, first of all, he wants to talk, but I can't breathe because I'm trying to keep up with him.
I can't keep up with him. Yeah,
I can't breathe to like shoot the breeze with him. So, but my point is, I try to have a couple of days where I have sort of like a workout where that involves spending time with like my family in some way, shape, or form, because I think that that's important. And because I want everybody to be physically active, and also it feels like less of a chore, right? So especially on the weekends, we just have days that we're just like, all right, we're going to be physically active, or, oh, like, where do we want to go on a hike for today? Or like, what do we want to do? Or Elijah, like, what kind of workout do you need to do? Like, what are you doing? We have a family membership to the Y, so we do that sometimes. But we try to be like very, do a lot of like family things. And then obviously my workout time is very important to me. And I like to get a nice long workout in. I usually like to do a morning workout. So
because you get up at like what, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, just to get your Peloton ride.
Yep. Yeah, I got to get it in when I can. And it is so nice. I actually don't really struggle with it. It's like, it's my me time. I can like work out in peace. I actually like to wake up early. The things that I really enjoy in my morning time are I love being able to get a good workout in. And I actually like to have a really big breakfast. So that's like part of my routine is I like to have a very large breakfast. And I like to get a good workout in.
Yeah. And I think that's a good thing to do because, again, going back to like people that have families, have kids, are always like, oh my God, I'm so busy with the kids. And now that, that they're older and stuff, you don't really have to worry about them too much compared to if they're like little babies. But then you can always, find time if you can like wake up earlier and do it while they're sleeping. That's a great time to do it. Because I feel like if you wait too late, like later in the day, anything can happen throughout the day, and then it just falls off the wayside, and then you're like, oh, okay,
a million reasons why it is that you can't get to do it, in my opinion. Some of you it's not that way, but for me, I will come up with a million reasons why it is that I can't do it. I'll also be too tired. And I just think it's really important. I think first of all, I'm very productive in the mornings, and I just feel like most of my patients that come to see me in the mornings will find that I'm never like your groggy, grouchy morning person. I don't even like mornings, but by the time they see me, I've had a great workout, so I've had time to focus on me. I've had a wonderful shower. I usually have gotten to eaten and to sit down and like eat my breakfast, which I usually do. Although some days I do a little bit of intermittent fasting. So I don't always do a big early morning breakfast, but I love to do a big early morning breakfast. And by the time they see me, I'm in a really good like headspace is a good way of putting it. So I don't even caffeinate that hardcore in the mornings because I really feel like I have a lot of like natural energy from all the endorphins that are released from getting that workout in. Plus you have a feeling of accomplishment. You're like, oh snap, like I already did, like, what did you do this morning? You slept. I already did a workout in. I already did like cardio, strength training, self-reflection, meditation. Like I meditate. So like I get a lot done in the mornings and I really enjoy it.
Yeah. And I think on top of exercise too, it's just important to get enough sleep because not getting enough sleep can also contribute to high cortisol and, prevent you from losing weight. On top of that, work-life balance is really important. Stress, just in what you're doing, if possible, to lower your cortisol levels too. I also tell my clients, if you have a high stress job, it's something you can't get away from. If you're doing workouts, do something that's low impact, because if you're doing high impact workouts, even though it's something that you enjoy, you could be doing, oh, I love my CrossFit, I love my HIIT stuff, I love my running. But if you're already in a high stress job and you're doing high stress workouts, your cortisol levels again go up, and that's your stress levels going up. So it's important to balance that. Try considering Pilates, consider doing something like bar, yoga. It'll just really get your, you still get a workout in, but you're not making your body go through all that cortisol. And
Mm.
so it's important to sort of balance that out. Because I think when people think about when they need to do a weight loss journey or when they have to work out, it has to be hardcore. I have to be sweating. I have to
Yep.
like
Yep.
be really hard about it. And it's like, you don't always have to be hard, considering how much stress you're already going through. So
I completely agree. And I also think you hit the nail on the head with the importance of sleep. It's actually my biggest weakness, you guys. I have to make a conscious effort to force myself to go to sleep, and to go to sleep at a reasonable hour. And if I don't get enough sleep, all the other things that I just told you I love to do fall by the wayside, right? It's harder to wake up. It's harder to work out. I'm grouchy. Your eating is worse when you don't get enough sleep. Remember, when you
yes.
stay up, your body releases more of those hunger hormones, and you tend to eat worse. In addition to the fact that it's a terrible time to eat because your metabolism isn't working as hard as it usually does. So sleep is so important. I think so many of us forget how important it is, but sleep is really, really difficult. And like I said, for me, it's a constant thing that I constantly have to make a conscious effort to make sure that I do, is like go to sleep. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
and
also
again,
like ruling out if you have any sleep apnea, like if you're not getting good
mhm.
quality sleep, and if you're having sleep apnea where you like stop breathing for moments at a time, like that also predisposes you to more weight gain. So yeah, if your
And
partner's
heart
telling you
disease and
you're
all kinds of other
snoring,
things.
yeah, it's worth
Yeah,
getting that checked out, you know.
for
So
sure. For sure. Because it'll help you in so many ways in the long run. Like sleep is so important. I feel like sometimes in weight loss we forget to emphasize it, but the two are so interconnected. Like you've got to get enough sleep.
yeah. Lately, what I've been doing, I mean, I've talked like to the mountains about magnesium. I love magnesium. I'll also take like half a, it's like just a generic sleeping pill from Costco. You can get over the counter. That helps me stay asleep because I would easily just wake up sometimes. Even if, like, say my husband got up earlier than me, I would get up and then I'm up for the rest of the day. And
Mm.
I'm like, man, I can't go back to sleep. But taking that sleeping pill really helps. I can still sleep. Earplugs and an eye mask also help too.
Hmm.
So,
Blackout curtains, big fan of.
yes. Yeah.
Definitely giving yourself limitations with like screen time. If you're somebody who likes to like scroll on your phone, sometimes you got to put the phone down. Not sometimes, you have to put the phone down. Or I
Mhm.
think Zarina, for us, put the computer down, do not do any
Yeah.
work. For me, I know that when it's time for bed, when I decide it's time for bed, I put all those things away. And a lot of times what I do, if I'm going to have anything, it's usually like my Kindle Paperwhite that I'll pull out to do a little bit of reading to help me wind down.
Yeah.
Zarina, of the Thorne products, are there any things that you like to use for sleep?
Yeah. They've got, magnesium. They have the threonate that I really like.
Mm.
And then I do like their protein powders are amazing because we always talk about high protein, right? Sometimes it's hard to get a good amount of protein in. I recommend usually about 30 grams or so. It's just a generic, like, flat number. Of course, this depends on your goals. If you're trying to bulk up a little bit, then you're going to want to increase it. But in
Right.
general, 30 grams is usually pretty good for everybody. So I like to throw in some protein powder into my smoothie after a workout. I like the vanilla one. I know you use Recovery Pro. I haven't tried it yet. I've been meaning to
I'm
try it, but
obsessed with Recovery Pro. I can't recommend it enough, especially if you need to wind down
yeah.
with sleep, because it has GABA and tryptophan in it, and it has protein in it. So I love to put it in with like a little bit of like skim milk, some like hot
Hmm.
water, and I put like some, I like love keto whipped cream, so a little keto whipped cream, and then we have like. And then I make my kid in the wintertime, like this time of year now, it's not winter, it's fall, but we're in Pennsylvania, so it's cold enough. So
Yeah.
now I have my kids, like I make them hot chocolate. And so
Have a little
we all
treat.
will do like that, have it as like a little treat. Although my big boy now, like he's like Mr. Healthy, because he wants the Recovery Pro too. He's like, Mom, can I get the Recovery Pro? I need the protein. So
Yeah.
so he'll have that.
Yeah. What I like doing too, like sometimes I crave some kind of cheesecake type of Like I want a cheesecake, but I'm like, I can't always have cheesecake. So I'll have a yogurt, like just a plain Greek yogurt. And then I add like the Jello sugar-free cheesecake just for some flavor. And then on top of that, I'll add some of the Thorn vanilla and mix that all in. And it's really good. And then like I'll just crack
oh, nice.
Yeah, I'll put like the Biscoff biscuits that you get, like usually if you're on a Delta flight or something, you just they also sell it. They sell it in the store. So
they stay with the Biscoff.
Yeah,
right. I think it's American Airlines too that does that. They say things. Yeah,
one of them. But yeah, it's so good, and then it tastes like you're having cheesecake, but you're not really having to deal with all the calories and the sugar. So
I love that idea. I really like that idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, or you could even alternate with Oreos too, like the little tiny Oreos. So like I said, you could still have carbs. It's just kind of, if you do it in limitations, totally fine. I like to just sprinkle it in here and there, but you don't have to be like super restrictive. You could always find a way to throw it in somehow.
I completely agree. Those are really, really good ideas. And yeah. For sleep, I definitely think that it's important to make sure you get enough sleep. Take a supplement if you need it. I think it's worth it if you find one that you like, because sleep is so incredibly important.
Yeah.
Like none of us do it enough. None of us rest enough.
No. So yeah, weight loss is a whole picture. You can't just think about it's just food and that's all it is. It's definitely deals with stress, deals with your environment. And then for my older folks too, like once you kind of get through menopause and all that, like as we're talking about testosterone replacement therapy and hormone replacement therapy, like those are also important modalities to think about. So well, thanks for sharing your journey.
Of course,
we've all been looking forward to it. So finally we got to hear this
always
story.
Happy to share. If you guys have any questions as we go into the next season, I'm always happy to answer them. I'm a very, very transparent person. And if any part of my story can help you, I'm always happy to lend insight.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we'll catch you guys in the next episode. I believe this is going to be airing before Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Happy Turkey Day. Gobble, gobble.
Yes. And thanks for listening. We've still got a couple more episodes for December. So look out for that.
And then our season is winding down, you guys. But no worries. We will definitely be back. But yeah, coming towards the end here.
Yeah, our guest that's coming up, he's actually someone that's been on the show before and was a fan favorite. So
yeah,
something to look forward to.
Favorite. Honestly, I'm one of his fans. So
oh, me too, obviously.
I'm super excited to have him. So yeah, it's going to be awesome. Yeah. All right, guys, we'll see you soon. See ya.
All right, bye. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe to our podcast, give us a rating, and share with your family and friends who might find it helpful.
And remember, we love hearing from our listeners. Connect with us on our social media channels or shoot us an email with your thoughts, questions, or suggestions for future topics. Don't forget to check out our website, www.thewayinNPs.com, and to follow us on Instagram at thewayinNPs.
If you need one-on-one help with your weight loss or wellness journey, book a private consultation with us. The A-List Clinic can be reached at www.thealistclinic.com or on Instagram and TikTok at The A-List Clinic.
And my clinic, Lifefire Weight and Wellness, can be reached at www.lifefireweight.com or on Instagram and TikTok at LifefireWeight.
Thanks again for tuning into the Weigh-In Podcast with your hosts, Katie and Zarina. Until next time, take care and be well.
The information in this podcast is for general information only. It is not intended as medical advice and should not be relied upon as a substitute for medical consultation with a qualified medical provider familiar with your medical needs.